Something I have learned over the years, whether I was 20, 30, 40, and yes, even 50, is a lot of people are interested in getting rich. Some talk about getting wealthy. I want to talk with the one and only Brian Adamson, who has earned both. Yes, I consider him rich and wealthy. I believe there is a difference. But let's talk about how you can get rich in 2024 or get wealthy. Brian, how you doing, man?
I'm good, Mike. Good to be back, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, real quick question. If I was to differentiate rich and wealthy, A, do you see them as the same thing? And B, if they're different, how so?
I think they're different. I think I think rich is just making a certain amount of income, right? I think once you kind of cross that threshold of making, multiple six figures, you could probably be in that rich conversation.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, I think wealthy is more synonymous with quality of life and time freedom. I think the day that your assets cover your liabilities, you're on that wealth journey because at that point, now you have back control over your time. To me, that's what true wealth looks like, is having the time freedom. All because you're rich don't mean that you got time freedom. And yeah, yeah. Does that help?
Yeah, no, first and foremost, I agree 100%. I've been lucky enough to work in tech. I've been lucky enough now to work with people trying to get on this journey, and I clearly see a difference. In fact, uh, the IRS or the SEC, I guess the SEC actually has something they call accredited investors.
Hmm.
And accredited investors is kind of my best example of trying to use the system to define rich and wealthy. An accredited investor, I believe, has one of two categories. One, you can have a net worth X your primary residence of seven figures, or you as a single individual could have a W-2 in any tax year of 200 grand, or as a couple, I believe it is 300 grand.
Hmm.
So again, I think you're right. The SEC looks at you as rich because you make a certain amount of money, which I think is asinine. If you follow me on Twitter, I posted or retweeted, I guess, a couple who made 500 grand a year. Undoubtedly rich, undoubtedly.
Hmm.
But when they listed all of their expenses, Brian, it's embarrassing. They had $7,000 of disposable income.
Mm.
Dude, when you break that down across two
Wow.
people, they're
Wow.
making a buck 75 an hour in discretionary income. That is not wealthy.
Yeah.
That is not well. When you are living that close to the bone, that's not good. That's not
Yeah.
good. What do you think?
Yeah. 100%. I mean, I've been I've been rich and broke.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? Like, because if to your point, like if your lifestyle is also synonymous with your income bracket, then you're rich and broke. And that's why I always say that making more money don't fix money problems.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be a change behavior. There has to be a tweak in your lifestyle to where, you can start to lower your monthly expenditure so that then you do have more discretionary income for discretionary spending and investing. And then you start to actually create something that's starting to serve you versus you serve it, because essentially we make more money to be slaves to the bills that we've
Oh,
acquired.
yeah. And again, I've been very upfront with folks. I was on that rat race my entire 20s, right? I was making more money, spending more money. And as the income goes up, the bills go up, the wheel just gets bigger. And if you've
For
ever seen
sure.
how a rat wheel works, the bigger the wheel, the harder your energy, right? You have to keep it going. And you go to one recession and there's a lot of people that get, kicked off the hamster wheel and they're financially ruined. I have worked with many people that made seven figures in a single calendar year because we were sales reps and you got the big deal, you got the accelerator, whatever it is, and they can't repeat that the next year. And greater than 50% of the people that I saw make seven figures get the big award on stage were bankrupt within 24 months. Like
Wow.
bankrupt.
Wow.
because
Wow.
they inflate their lifestyle to that
Yeah.
once in a lifetime number. And it's sad, but it happens at all different income thresholds. You get on this wheel, you flex a little bit, you get the lifestyle, you get kicked off for whatever reason, and you're bankrupt. You're broke. It's not good.
100%. 100%. Which, I mean, just illustrates the point that being rich, being wealthy, or being middle class or poor, it all starts with your mindset, right? Because the poor believe that the purpose of money is to go to work and pay bills,
Yeah.
right? They kind of figured out this is all life is going to be. I'm just going to work this dead end thing, and I'm gonna have, this meager life that I'm gonna have. They've kind of accepted that. Go to work, pay bills. The middle class believe the purpose of money is to go to work, to pay bills, but then also have enough credit worthiness to buy things in advance of affording them, right? And then you have the other side of the middle class that believe that being debt free is financially free, right? Being debt free is a catalyst to becoming financially free, but it's not the thing that makes you
By
financially
itself.
free,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then the rich and the wealthy understand that the only purpose of money is to make money and use that money for investments and use those investments to pay for lifestyle. Like that's what the rich and the wealthy subscribe to. And so I think once you can identify where you're at and have an honest conversation with yourself, like where are you at? Because you have to first define where you're at in order to go where it is that you want to go next. And many of you, again, many people just think that money is their problem. It's like money is not your problem. It's your philosophy, your ideology, your beliefs about money that's causing you to behave in such a way with the money that you have. And if you get more of it, you're just going to do more of how you've been doing it. And so you have to first understand, are you poor, middle class, or rich from a mindset perspective, not necessarily what's in the bank account. And then figure out, okay, well, do you want to subscribe to the rich and the wealthy? And if you do, your life is going to have to make some drastic changes to get there.
Yeah. Let me throw this at you. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that you can be wealthy
Mm-hmm.
making 50 grand a year.
1,000%.
People don't get it.
One
People don't
thousand
get it.
percent, Mike. 1,000%. When you read the book Millionaire Next Door, that's very eye-opening. When you look at the people who've made 40, 50, 60, 70, $80,000 and that are far, there you go, and that are far more wealthy than those who make upwards of $500,000 a year. It'll blow your mind is how these people, not because they've contracted their way to wealth, they just never let their lifestyle ever get out of hand to begin with. And so they've been able to incrementally build wealth and making 50, 60, 70 grand a year.
I want people to hear this again. You can be wealthy. You may not be called rich. Who cares? We all want to be, you should want to be wealthy. You can be wealthy making 50 grand a year. There's only a couple of choices you have to make, but you can do it. Everybody can do 50 on 50. And then here's the real power. So if we both agree 1000%, you could be wealthy on 50 grand a year. Here's the
Mm-hmm.
next just total mind twist. You know how many ways you can make 50 grand a year today, whether you work for the man or work for yourself?
Yeah,
I mean, it's
for,
freaking unlimited.
for sure.
I
For
mean, come
sure.
on.
Man, I hadn't even, when you just said that, I was thinking, because we think in months how much money we make now.
Right,
Like to
right.
make 50 grand, oh my God. Like you get out of bed and trip and make 50 grand a year today. I
Yeah.
mean, just by listening to podcasts, by reading a couple of books, by going and buying a course or attending a seminar, like literally one of the four of those things, if not a combination of all four, can put you in position to make 50 grand a year without ever having to answer to anybody.
Yeah. So you could be a solopreneur. One of the things that I'm really so again, I love talking to you because we see the world differently, but the same, if that makes sense. Right. I think
100%.
you're definitely much more big picture. And I'm more like, dude, pick up the rock. Right. You're like, hey, dude, look at the bigger picture. Like there's a mountain there. Why are you looking at a rock? That's just how my mind works. But Cody Sanchez, while I was doing my half marathon yesterday, she was talking about 7, 8, and 9-figure businesses.
Hold on. You just can't slide that in there like while I was doing my half marathon. So you did the half marathon, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, I ran 13.4 miles, which is more than half
Wow.
marathon. I'm training for a marathon, so I just wanted to see if this old man could get halfway there, and he did.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I did that, but I had to
How
plug
did
in.
how did it go?
The first half was great. The second half, I actually texted Olivia at one of the traffic lights. I'm like, this sucks. So the last half was hard. What the hell am I doing?
So it went how it was supposed to go. In other words, I
Exactly.
mean, what else can you expect, man?
Yeah. So the idea here is that was kind of a test for me.
Okay.
Sorry for the right turn, but I'm going there anyway. I'll do another
Yeah.
half marathon in a couple of months to see if the second half gets better. Right. Because my
Okay.
marathon's not till November. So it was
Oh
like
yeah, you got some time.
this was
Yeah.
like a baseline. So, but yeah,
Okay.
it went how it was. But back to
Back to
my,
accountability, Mike.
yeah,
Accountability. There you go.
e-
You know what I
every
mean?
time,
Leading by example.
every week, baby. Just did my weekly update this morning.
Yes, sir.
But Cody Sanchez, 7, 8, 9
Mm.
figure business.
Yep.
I go back to our conversations, 50 grand, 50 grand, 50 grand. You could be a solopreneur in your whatever you love, Beanie Babies, classic cars, making jam, whatever it is. If you did that for a little while on social media, you could become the expert or one of the experts in that area. And you could easily get referrals or affiliates or whatever they're called. And you can make 50 grand talking about what you love pretty easily. Now, it will take time to build up and all of that, but build that up while you're working so you can fall back into that. I mean, I think there needs to be more solopreneurs. That's something I'm pushing.
100%. So I coach coaches as well, right? So in addition to real estate coaching, I've been asked so many times to do it. I finally surrendered at the end of last year, and I've started coaching coaches and consultants on how to grow their coaching
Nice.
and consulting businesses, right? How to develop, who's their avatar, like who am I talking to, craft their messages, everything from their marketing, their content, their fulfillment, the sales, the whole nine, teaching them how to build out their businesses. And to your point, Mike, I'm working with a young lady right now who was able to get away from corporate America. She was making 180 grand a year doing corporate sales for a tools company, and what prompted her to leave so quickly was her dad passed away. He was like the mentor in her life, amongst other things, and she said that she started to come face with her own mortality and was like, why am I doing this? Like, there's got to be another way for me to live. And the first thing she did, left a $180,000 a year job, moved in with her mom, cut her expenses, bought a couple rental properties, and now she's building out a coaching business. And well, I should say a consulting business that probably will evolve into a coaching business. But she's starting with helping people who have lost a parent or a loved one get over grief and basically, tap into their dreams and show them how to turn their dreams into dollars. This is a classic example, and she's going to make far more than $50,000 a year doing it, and she's going to enjoy herself while doing it.
That's the beauty of, I think it's easier today. And again, disagree with me. It's easier today to make that 50 grand than it was certainly 20 years ago, right?
Oh,
20
for
years
sure,
ago, I had to sell my hours, right? Today, I could sell my passion,
for sure.
right? Social media, the phone, all of this has just enabled you to put out some. That's the beauty of what I think we have in front of us is if you're a Gen X, you're a baby boom, you're a late stage millennial, you have been doing something for 10 years. You have that itch, that thing that you want to, you have real life experience that can help others, right? You just need that avatar and it doesn't need to be millions of people. We all don't need to be Graham Stephan with 4.6 million. We get 4,600. That's enough.
100%. And to your point, Mike, 20 years ago, it wasn't just selling your time. You had to buy a degree, then sell your time.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah,
mean,
it was,
and
yeah.
today it's like it's a joke, like college, like who does that? You know what I mean? And I'm not against it, right? I've been there, done that, got the trophy as you did, but it's just
I
the
got a
fact
couple
that
of them. I got a couple.
it's just not necessary, and don't waste your money. Like, go find an area of focus, go spend a fraction of that on a seminar. If you're gonna spend some money in an area, like literally just figure out, like this past weekend, they had Podfest here in Orlando, right? Like if you want to start a pod, go get in one of those rooms. I don't know what the
Yeah.
cost was, but I guarantee you it's a lot cheaper than college, and
Oh
the
yeah.
upside is a lot bigger for you, right?
Guaranteed.
And we gotta get out of this traditional way of thinking and really understand that we're in a different era now, man. And if you really lean into that and can get rid of all this archaic ideology that don't serve people at the highest capacity now, you can really create a life for yourself that that you probably don't think that is possible for you right now. Just leaning into those things that you're already passionate about and putting some framework and structure around it and finding other people that were you 5 years ago and go talk to those people.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm seeing now is you got to get in rooms being, the generic around people that are just a step or two ahead of you. It does annoy me that a lot of people that don't have a rental. They look at Grant Cardone with, I don't know what it is, $10 billion or whatever. And they're like, I want to be that. I'm like, dude, that's great and all, but why don't you just get one?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The chasm is just so big.
Yeah. Honestly, Mike, to your point, I think that prevents a lot of people from even starting.
I agree. They're like,
You,
that's
you
too
know,
big. Not possible.
absolutely, absolutely. Or thinking that because what you tune into, you turn into. So if they aren't exposed to the normal rooms, I would say, and the only thing that they're privy to is the likes of a Grant or one of these other big boys or girls,
Mhm.
then you almost think that whatever it is that they're doing, you never will qualify to do it. And so to your
Right.
point, you do have to get in rooms around other people so that you can see the parity amongst the room. Because every time you go into those rooms, Mike, as you know, like there's a couple that top 1 to 10%, but then there's a lot of parity amongst everyone else. And as you talk to them, you figure out that people are all in unique starting points or in unique places in their business, and then it started to normalize to you. Oh, this actually is attainable.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I love that's just a happy accident, right? You're going to be a part of the ORAD event 17th and 18th in February. Dude, it's less than 3 weeks away. Can you believe it?
Crazy, crazy.
Crazy. Um, but there's going to be a room of, roughly 350 people all going the same direction. Now, they may have different numbers on the scoreboard, but I guarantee you, everybody in that room is going one direction.
Mhm.
And that is going to be amazing to watch. It's like I didn't when I agreed to do the celebration, I had no idea how excited I would be to be in a room of 350 some odd people going one direction.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
that is encouraging because I've been thinking about the audience. I'm always sensitive to that, right? Especially when speaking. And I thought about the same thing, Mike, that people are going to be in different places and stages. Some are going to be, in corporate America trying to get their first deal. Others are going to be, I got a couple rentals, I'm in corporate, I'm trying to figure out how to make the transition out. There's going to be some full-time investors there. There's going to be some that have scaled up already. A myriad of people in different places. But to your point, the direction is going to be all the same way. And I'm encouraged by that because there's less barrier to get through to people based on where their unique point is to help them get beyond that point because the needle is at least moving in the right direction. They just may need some of the steps and the support and the tutelage to help get them beyond the point that they're currently at.
Yeah, I have this analogy I use with the three amigos. Right. There's the drunk idiots in the parking lot. There are people that paid the ticket or in the stands, and then there are people on the field.
Mhm.
I have a particular frustration with the drunk, loud idiots in the parking lot. None
Mhm.
of those people are going to be there. Everybody will be in the stands. They paid the ticket, they're there, or they'll be on the field.
Mhm.
And that's just going to be just amazing to be a part of. I
Yeah.
I think about it a lot, and I'm glad I'm paid the extra money to get it recorded because frankly that wasn't in the budget to begin with. But now
Mhm.
we're doing it. I'm just gonna. I know I'm gonna do a highlight reel that I keep looking back on. But let's take that topic, that idea, and twist it. Because I think one of the things, as I try to get more and more people to think about being wealthy at 50 grand, and I'm using 50 grand because it's a number that everybody should think's attainable. Whatever
Mhm.
your number is, it's your number. But let's just go back to 50 grand.
Could before we go beyond that, Mike, could you just really quick show someone the entire picture of what a 50 grand income in comparison to what their lifestyle would need to look like? Because I think that's an important part to tell them what their lifestyle would need to look like with that 50 grand.
So to have a 50 grand year, we'll just use rough numbers. That's roughly $4,250 in gross income.
Hmm.
That's probably like $3,500 after taxes. So what that means is your fixed expenses are significantly below that. And I would hope they're, $2,000 or less. But how do you get there? Well, you have to make some choices. One of the things you can do today, obviously, is house hack, whether that's units or whatnot. Maybe that's something you do 2 or 3 times. And then ultimately you move into a single family home and your rentals. Basically, I think the first thing you got to think about is how you get housing paid for zero or is negative, which means you're living for free. Then you have to watch you can't ball out as your income goes up. You basically have to make those choices. And again, it's easier to do when you're single in your 20s, but I have known plenty of millionaires who had the big house in Texas, sold it, lived with family, then moved into a upstairs fourplex on a Kelly, right? So
Yeah.
you can, as an older adult, make these choices. But the idea is it doesn't have to be real estate. You and I have multiple income streams now that
Hmm.
are north of 50 grand all by themselves.
Hmm.
Everybody can do that. I don't care where the 50 grand comes. It could be flipping on eBay. It could be Etsy stores. It could be dog walking. Whatever you love, there's a way to do it. You don't have to work for a man, but you've got to keep your expenses sub $3,500.
Yeah.
Whether you're a solopreneur. And again, the crazy thing is, I don't care if you are, I talked to somebody yesterday whose passion was serving. Uh,
Mm.
I'll call it, like being a priest or whatever it is, right? They don't
Hmm.
make a lot of money.
Hmm.
But if you set up your dominoes correctly where your life's covered and you don't have that mental strain of having to earn that income, it's just freeing.
For sure.
I've talked to high school seniors and I tell them all the time, can you live on $2,500? And they said, yes. I'm like, if you do that for 5 years, you could be financially free at 25. And then think about what you could do the next 50 years.
No kidding.
It's what I want people to believe, and I'm glad you asked that, is it is all mindset. You
Yeah.
have to believe it's possible. And this is where I'm going. Most of you, if you're there personally, your friends aren't.
Mm.
Your social media isn't.
Mm.
Too many of you have friends that suck and should be fired, and your social media feeds are horrible.
Mm.
Stop blaming the algorithm. You need to block the idiots that make you feel bad, that scare you, make you jealous. If your social media feed isn't 100% positive, I don't know what you're doing. This device has the ability to crush your dreams or make them reality. And you got to own your stuff. You got to own the decisions. What do you think of all that?
Man, let me pass the collection plate, man. I know you was gonna preach a sermon today, Mike. That was it. Yeah, like yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, I agree, like emphatically, because we should control that device. It shouldn't control us. And the unfortunate news for some of you is that it's going to take some courage, and it's crazy for me to say this out loud, right? But it's the sheer fact that it will take some courage for you to be bold enough to unfollow and unsubscribe to people, whether they know it or not, that aren't feeding you, feeding the narrative, and making you feel terrible every time you see their stuff. And I say that it sounds crazy to say it because we live in a day and age to where that's considered courage. But for some people, they really are petrified with the idea of what would so and so think if they see that I unfollowed them. What was right? And it's like that's why I'm very intentional about saying it will take some courage But it takes for you to care more about your life and what it is that you've been purposed and called to do than anything else. And until you reach that level of conviction, I think you're always going to stay lukewarm and your results in life are going to be as such. Like until you reach a level of conviction where it's like, I'm not failing for no reason other than those things that I need to learn from. Meaning I'm not letting any other external factor be the determining factor on whether or not I'm successful in life. And I also understand that I don't get to play the blame game, and I don't make it out this life being a victim, and I don't get to blame my surroundings and my circumstances, because we're not a product of our environment. We're a product of the decisions we make in our environment. And so we got to make the right decisions. We got to be fully convicted that, yeah, it may feel weird to go against the grain, but guess what? There's a reason why there's 99% and there's 1%. Everybody follows the bunch. Like very seldom in life today do we have independent thinkers.
Yeah.
And unless or until you choose to be one, Mike, your life is going to suck because you're always going to be subscribing to somebody else's life and not the one that you really want for yourself.
Yeah. There's a lot. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, many of you have to fire your friends. I mean, it's so obvious to me. You know, if you want to do, like, let's talk about the average American.
Mm-hmm.
They're fat and they're broke.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to do what everybody else is doing, do what everybody else does. If you want to get wealthy, there is a percentage, 5-10% that get it. There are only a couple of choices you have to make.
Yeah.
But one of the first things you have to do is get in a room with other people that believe. Like if you get in a room where everybody's going that direction, maybe somebody thinks wealthy is 200 grand. Maybe somebody thinks it's 100. Maybe you think it's 50. But if everybody in the room is on the wealthy path instead of your loser friends who want to take you to the bar, get drunk, you know, whatever. Show me your friends, I show you your future. I mean, it's wild to think.
100%. 100%. So this is Dr. Darius Daniels, right? He's a phenomenal pastor, but he's also just he's killing it in the marketplace. And he's got this saying that goes, two people walk in the room, they both experience the same problem. One of them is like beside themselves about what's going on, and the other one identifies it as a problem but aren't as bothered by it. And what he calls that is divine agitation, meaning that God puts something on the inside of each and every one of us that bothers us when we encounter this problem, right? And this is a big one for me, the one that we're talking about now, because I've had to fire friends of 30 years. I've had to fire family members. Like I come from an environment, Mike, where I grew up in the streets of Detroit, you know, and because of the lifestyle that I led early on, when I started to evolve, I had to get rid of those people that were no longer serving me based on where I wanted to go, regardless of what our history suggested and what our environment suggested we should have did in terms of staying together. And so I'm my pet project I've been working on, we're actually launching it in February, is a community called Believers in Business, where, you know, we're covering 4 pillars: faith, fitness, finance, and freedom, right? And this is a community for people, and it's not a prerequisite that you be a Christian, right, as I am. It's just for those that want more out of life, that are unfulfilled, that have a void, and they want to get stronger in every aspect of their life: faith, fitness, finance, and freedom. Because I think when you get that core 4 down, then you really start to see true success in your life, right? I've had times where I had the financial success, but you know, I was wrecked inside. I was rich and miserable, like I would call it, my miserable millions, right? Or I had other times where you joked with me about this last time, where I was 60 pounds overweight 17 years ago, right? So how do you maintain a lifestyle for 17 years where your weight only has shifted 5 or 10 pounds, right? That's not by happenstance, and it ain't because I don't eat ice cream on the weekend. Like it's the strategy, you know what I'm saying? And finance, that we've been talking about that the whole start of this the conversation, and ultimately freedom. And in that freedom bucket, I'm talking about freedom from substance abuse and strongholds, right? We call it getting lit. It's really like myself, until I stopped drinking 5 years ago, I would say I was a functioning alcoholic, right? It became a part of networking and everything else that I did. And while it's normalized in society, if you don't have your arms around it, it could really become an issue for you and impact every other aspect of your life. Some people, got issues with gluttony. Others have issues with toxic relationships that they just don't know how to get away from. Other bad habits, consumerism. So we're really trying to holistically help people this year, having a community environment where you can get open, honest, and transparent and start working through these issues so that you can have, because part of the problem is, Mike, just like with a child trying to stick their toy in the socket, and you're like, no, no, no. Well, what works more effectively than tell them no is do this instead. So when you tell people you need to break free from this environment, for most they default into thinking, but then what do I have? So I'm creating an environment that would then give them something that they would have, so that they don't feel like they're just all alone on the island.
Yeah. I think one of the first steps, if we kind of try to break this down into some key steps, or somebody that wants to get wealthy, in 2024, is you have to really audit your network, both physical, kind of your relationships, but also social media. And whether we like it or not, doom sells, right? Doom is a trigger. It's fear-based. Way back to our, historic brains, we're wired to, fear is more prevalent than feeling good. It's how we stayed alive. But we need to realize that most fear is not there to serve us. Most people who create fear and doom are doing it for self-service. And, we happen to operate in YouTube, where some of the biggest doomers make almost 100 grand a year, producing the same garbage day in and day out. And they have a loyal following. I keep telling people, you need to stop watching that stuff. It's not helping you. You're only helping them. But that goes for really anything. I think the first thing you have to do is you have to believe in yourself and cut out that negative influence. Because if you believe in yourself, Brian, but you watch this doom, my guess is you go nowhere.
I would say so. At some point, because again, what you tune into, you turn into. At some point, you're going to believe them more than you do in yourself. And the reason is, for most people, you still have such a shallow level of understanding the thing that you're attempting to do, that if you consume too much of that, it completely cannibalizes the little bit that you have. And over time, it will overtake it to where you're just paralyzed and not do anything, because you're subscribing to all of these. And we talk to a Mike every day. It almost, like, I admittedly, it pissed me off. Like, I have to take a step back when I talk to the people that I know have been consuming that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Because I hate, I'm at a place, Mike. I mean, God been working on my patience, man. But my patience for certain things is just so slim.
Yeah.
Because I get tired of fighting people to help them.
I just block them. I've given up. I used to debate them.
Don't reach out for me to me for help, but then I gotta fight you to help you.
Yeah. Or don't tell me it doesn't work. Hello.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yes, I do agree. If you consume too much of that, you're going nowhere fast. It's not a good place for you. And not only that, let's be honest. For most people, the only reason why they're consuming that is because it gives you an excuse not to do the thing that you need to do anyway.
Well, here's the worst of the worst. You know what the worst of the worst is? You are watching people who have done nothing, right? The crash bros are people who rent, people who have lost homes in the 2008 crash. They own nothing. And those are the experts that you're following, as opposed to builders who have actually done something and made lots of mistakes, but survived. You're going to be watching renters who build pretty charts who couldn't understand housing to, buy something when it was a great deal in 2020. It's mind-boggling. If you want to get fit, don't watch somebody that's 500 pounds.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's like, how is this okay? I want to understand real estate. I'm going to go watch a lifelong renter. Really? That's what we're doing these days? It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it is. But again, Mike, going back to what people have in their feed, right?
Yes.
Typically, because here's the thing. So let's just say they do the work, right? They take everything that we said. They started to audit their circle. They audited their social media, all the rest of it. Well, what happens is, Mike, when you've not cleared the path for you to have a clear runway, then you have no more excuse not to take action. See, as long as you cluttered with things that don't serve you, you can always have an out by saying, but
Yeah.
what about this? And but
Ugh.
what about that? So that's what I mean. Some people are intentionally doing this to pacify themselves, to give themselves an excuse to not do the very thing that they know that they should be doing.
Yeah. Sabotage, self-sabotage.
Self-sabotage. That's
Yeah.
self-sabotage.
So I believe mindset, personal network, both physical and online is kind of where it starts. But if you wanted to advise somebody that says, Brian, I want to get wealthy on 50 grand, where would you send them? What would be something you'd recommend looking at?
It wouldn't be real estate first.
I agree.
Um, which is crazy coming from me and you, right?
Yeah,
Like, but
exactly.
I know the viewers are like, hold on, wait, what are
What
we
they just
watching
say?
right now, right? But I would start with, to your point, 10 years qualified you as an expert, right? Doing something. What do you do for your big corporate employer that you can go and do for a small business that needs those services? Like, I think that's like that's the least path of resistance. Then after that, I would say, what are you passionate about? What are some unique life experiences that you've been able to overcome or do really well that you know other people could also use that help,
I
right?
agree. I agree.
Then the third thing I would do is I would go get a high income earning skill, right? And while real estate would be one of them, I would also look at maybe writing copy, becoming a copywriter. That's something that you can do in batches and tranches and still have a lot of time and quality of life in between. But as a high income, I mean, people pay $3,600, $5,000 for a batch of emails like that. Just imagine you do 10 of those in a year, that's 50 grand. So go get you a high income earning skill that you can charge for, become a solopreneur, and just charge people for those services, you know. And so those would be the three places that I would start.
I
Transition for what you already do at work. The next one will be define your passion project, right, and go monetize your message. And then the third thing will be go pay for a high income earning skill.
I love all of that. And I agree with you. I think if you really have the mindset that you can be wealthy on 50 grand, which means the 50 grand is more than you need to live and you have disposable income after that. I don't care what it is. Go if you can turn your passion or hobby into that, and I want everybody to believe it's possible. There are ways to do it today. It's never been easier. Just build while you're still working. That way I hate the whole burn the boat. Nothing pisses me off more than saying, just quit your job, go all in. Yeah, I get it. There's a couple of success stories, but there's some massive failures. And I don't recommend it. I heard Ed Milet talk about 92% of the people are employees, only 8% are entrepreneurs. Feels right to me. But if
Mm.
you're part of the 92%, take your hobby and start to figure out how to monetize it. Get in new rooms with people who are already monetizing that thing. Learn from their success and failures. And in 2 or 3 years, you're going to have a couple of income streams that might get you there. And then back to real estate. Once you have the disposable income, you stack assets, and assets are real estate. But go go do you. What lights you on fire? What could you talk about for free with no preparation?
Yeah,
Welcome to your future.
yeah, yeah. And just to again highlight how doable it is. I just explained that I'm starting a community next month called Believers in Business, covering four pillars: faith, freedom, finance, and fitness. Okay. These are all things that I do anyway. and that I've done relatively well, and that I know people can benefit from learning how I've been able to do it, not to mention bringing in all of my expert friends to help in different areas and all the rest of it. It's going to be $47 a month, but I promise you that's going to be a multiple six-figure a year business. So,
Okay.
and again, I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. I'm just taking something that I've been able to do that served me and my family and my sphere of influence at a high level to where now I'm gonna serve more people doing the same thing. So we don't gotta overcomplicate it. You know, what we do have to do though, and this is very important, when you go out in the marketplace, don't think for the marketplace, think from the marketplace. I'm gonna say that again. Don't think for the marketplace. A lot of the time, we think that because we're excited about a thing that other people are going to be excited about it. It goes beyond that. You have to think when you're, because look, being in a marketplace is really being in service if you're doing it the right way. We're serving people. Mike's putting on an event serving people, okay? And so when you're serving people, you have to think from their perspective. What are they dealing with? What are their hangups, right? And if you can build something to adhere to solve their problem, then in reciprocity, then you get paid because you're solving their problem. So think of it from that perspective, as opposed to trying to force feed somebody something that serves you. Make sure that the thing you're feeding them serves them.
Yeah. I want to go back to something I think I asked earlier, just to kind of reinforce it. Do you think it's easier today for somebody who's not wealthy to get wealthy than maybe it was 20 years ago?
Oh, 1000%. 1000%. I don't know. Had I not evolved into investing in myself and finding those rooms and all the rest of it, I don't know how I would have gotten wealthy just from doing what I was doing 20 years ago. Like, I'm gonna be honest, man. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you're I really do think you've got to believe it's possible. You've got to X out your friends and family and social media. You got to get around people that are already doing it at different levels and just keep believing. I
Yeah.
mean, that is why I wrote my second book, 15 Conversations with Real Estate Millionaires, is
Mhm.
because my story in one rental at a time is just that. It's one story. It may resonate, it may not. There's there's dozens, if not hundreds of ways to get wealthy in real estate or business or other. That's why the second book was there, because I wanted to write 15 unique stories about how people did it. And because again, it's so important to have that rock solid belief. I personally, for the first 5 years of getting wealthy, I did not know if it was going to work. It's
Mhm.
hard, it's slow, you make mistakes. But if you're around people that's like, yeah, we made that mistake too, twist, 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 keep moving, it just would have felt better.
Yeah.
And 20 years ago, it didn't really exist. Today, if you're around the right people, freely accessible books,
Yeah.
podcasts, seminars.
100%. I think, excuse me. I think if we just look at it from a perspective of when you go get a job at an employer, right? For many people, you don't really know if you can do that job.
Mm,
Even if you had experience at a different employer, like every company is different, the culture is different, the systems and processes are different. So when you're going to sell yourself on a job interview, you really don't know that you can do the job yet. You're just focused on, this is the money I want to make. I'm about to go in here and sell the heck out of this opportunity to get my foot in the door, right? And so then we get there, and guess what they're going to do? They're going to train us. And not only are they going to train us, but they're going to pay. If you got a good job, they're going to pay to send you out for training, and they're going to invest all kind of money in you before they ever seen you do a thing. So they've agreed to pay you money to upwards of six figures to do something you never done. And then they're going to make another investment in you to make sure that you have all of the resources and intellect adequate enough to then put you in the best position to go out and perform this thing. I highlight that for this reason. That means that an employer views you as an asset. The problem is, at some point long ago, you stopped viewing yourself as an asset. And so if that employer is willing to pay you $100,000 a year, best believe they're making an investment in you in those first couple of weeks, because they're going to make $1 million a year off of your production. And so the The formula works, the methodology works. You just need to work it for yourself. Stop allowing everybody else to leverage you as an asset and start leveraging yourself as an asset. Go make some investments in yourself. Get the tutelage. Understand that going to start a business is no different than you not knowing how to do that job at first. You got to go get around other people that are resourceful, that can help you to understand the things that you need to do to go to build it.
This has been a lot of fun, folks. Again, believe in yourself, believe it's possible. Again, there's a difference between rich and wealthy. I want you to be wealthy, not only in finance, but in health, in faith, in freedom, all of those things. Brian, where can people check you out?
Brian Adamson Official on YouTube, Brian Adamson Official on Instagram. And shout out to all the ORAD family. I've been DMing with many of them, and I look forward to seeing y'all in a few weeks for sure.
There you go. Thanks, man.